The top 10 horror movies of all time. Psycho. Psycho is a 1960 American suspense horror film directed by Alfred Hitchcock starring Anthony Perkins, Vera Miles, John Gavin and Janet Leigh. The screenplay is by Joseph Stefano based on the 1959 novel Psycho by Robert Bloch, loosely inspired by the crimes of Wisconsin murderer and grave robber Eden Gein. In 1992, the film was selected for preservation by the US Library of Congress at the National Film Registry. This movie is in first place in our top 10 horror movies of all time. The Exorcist. The Exorcist is a 1973 American horror film directed by William Friedkin, adapted by William Peter Blatty from his 1971 novel of the same name. The book, inspired by the 1949 exorcism case of Ronald Doe, deals with the demonic possession of a young girl and her mother's desperate attempts to win back her daughter through an exorcism conducted by two priests. It was named the scariest film of all time by Entertainment Weekly and Movies.com and by viewers of AMC in 2006 and was number 3 on Bravo's The 100 Scariest Movie Moments. In 2010, the Library of Congress has selected the film to be preserved as part of its National Film Registry. In 2003, it was placed second in Channel 4's The Greatest 100 Scary Moments in the United Kingdom. This movie is in second place in our top 10 horror movies of all time. Alien. Alien is a 1979 science fiction horror film directed by Ridley Scott and starring Tom Skerritt, Sigourney Weaver, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holm and Yaphet Kotto. The film's title refers to its primary antagonist, a highly aggressive extraterrestrial creature that stalks and kills the crew of a spaceship. Dan O'Bannon wrote the screenplay from a story he wrote with Ronald Shusett, drawing influence from various works of science fiction and horror. In a way, Alien was the forerunner to all the sci-fi movies that followed through in Hollywood. This movie is in third place in our top 10 horror movies of all times. The Shining. The Shining is a 1980 psychological horror film produced and directed by Stanley Kubrick, co-written with novelist Diane Johnson and starring Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Scatman Crothers and Danny Lloyd. The film is based on the Stephen King novel The Shining. A writer, Jack Torrance, takes a job as an off-season caretaker at an isolated hotel. His young son possesses psychic abilities and is able to see things from the past and future, such as ghosts who inhabit the hotel. Soon after settling in, the family is trapped in by the hotel in a snowstorm, and Jack gradually becomes influenced by a supernatural presence. He descends into madness and attempts to murder his wife and son. This movie is in fourth place in our top 10 horror movies of all time. Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity is a 2007 American supernatural horror film written and directed by Oren Peli. The film centers on a young couple, Katie and Mika, who are haunted by a supernatural presence in their home. It presented in a style of found footage from cameras set up by the couple in an attempt to document what is haunting them. While the storyline of the movie itself is an artistic creation, many of the supernatural events portrayed in the movie were loosely based on actual events, which the director claims to have researched and incorporated into the storyline. A parallel prequel, Paranormal Activity 2, was released on October 22, 2010. It was followed by another prequel in Paranormal Activity 3, released on October 21, 2011. On October 19, 2012, Paranormal Activity 4 was released, serving as a sequel to the second and first films. Paranormal Activity 5 will be released on October 25, 2013. This movie is in fifth place in our top 10 horror movies of all time. Scream. Scream is a 1996 American slasher film written by Kevin Williamson and directed by Wes Craven. The film stars Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, Drew Barrymore and David Arquette. Released on December 20th, 1996, Scream follows the character of Sidney Prescott, a high school student in the fictional town of Woodsboro, who becomes the target of a mysterious killer known as Ghostface. Other main characters include Sidney's best friend Tatum Riley, Sidney's boyfriend Billy Loomis, film geek Randy Meeks, Deputy Sheriff Dewey Riley, and news reporter Gail Weathers. The film combined comedy and whodunit mystery with the violence of the slasher genre to satirize the cliché of the horror genre popular in films such as Halloween and Friday the 13th. The film was considered unique at the time of its release for featuring characters who were aware of real-world horror films. This movie is in 6th place in our top 10 horror movies of all time. The Exorcism of Emily Rose. The Exorcism of Emily Rose is a 2005 American courtroom drama horror film directed by Scott Dickerson and starring Laura Linney and Tom Wilkinson. The film is loosely based on the story of Annalise Michael and follows a self-proclaimed agnostic who acts as a defense counsel representing the parish priest accused by the state of negligent homicide after he performed an exorcism. The film, which largely takes place in a courtroom, depicts the events leading up to and including the exorcism through flashbacks. This movie is in 7th place of our top 10 horror movies of all time. Saw. Saw is a 2004 American independent horror film directed by James Wan. The screenplay, written by Lee Whannell, is based on a story by Whannell and Whannell. The film stars Kay Ellis, Danny Glover, Monica Potter, Michael Emerson, Ken Leung, Whannell and Toby Bell. It is the debut of Wan and Whannell and the first installment of the 7-part Saw film series. The film story revolves around Adam and Lawrence, two men who are chained in a dilapidated subterranean bathroom and are each given instructions via a microcassette how to escape. This movie is in 8th place on our top 10 horror movies of all time. The Ring. The Ring is a 2002 American psychological horror film directed by Gore Verbinski, starring Naomi Watts, Davian Chase and Martin Henderson. It is a remake of the 1998 Japanese horror film Ringu. Both films are based on Koji Suzuki's novel Ringu, who has also helped co-write both film adaptations and focused on a mysterious cursed videotape that contains a seemingly random series of disturbing images. After watching the tape, the viewer receives a phone call in which a girl's voice announces that the viewer will die in 7 days. The film was a critical as well as a commercial success. This movie is in 9th place on our top 10 horror movies of all time. A Nightmare on Elm Street. A Nightmare on Elm Street is a 1984 American slasher film written and directed by Wes Craven and the first film of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. The film stars Heather Langenkamp, John Saxon, Ronnie Blakely, Amanda Weiss, Zoe Garcia, Robert Englund and Johnny Depp in his feature film debut. Set in the fictional Midwestern town of Springwood, Ohio, the plot revolves around several teenagers who are stalked and killed in their dreams by Freddy Krueger. The teenagers are unaware of the cause of this strange phenomenon, but their parents hold a dark secret from a long time ago. This movie is in 10th place of our top 10 list of horror movies of all time. What do you think about our top 10 horror movies of all time? Please let us know in your comments. For more videos, subscribe to Pastimers.